Hello, howdy, welcome once again to Really Fucking Scary Stories. I am Sam Goodman, your host, coming to you from the Pale Horse Media Co. Studios in the sunny and beautiful downtown Phoenix, Arizona. It is almost middle of the night because I'm here with a dear friend of mine hanging out. It's 10:30 p.m. This is a we're pushing into midnight. I think we'll push into the witching hour. But I'm joined by a dear friend of mine, the one, the only, Mr. Ian Allison. How are you doing tonight, Ian?
Wonderful, Sam. How are you?
I am hanging in there, man. We're going to talk some really fucking scary stuff, I think, is what's going to happen.
A little terrified.
So I don't know how wacky and scary we're going to get. If some of our pre-conversation here is any indicator, I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely more about. I didn't know there was more that I didn't know. I think that's kind of the scary part of it. Because you're going to come away being like, geez, I didn't realize there was that many more layers to it.
For me, exactly. I think the more that I dig into just, I'll just say broad label of paranormal things, the more that I find. And I'm just interested in lore in general. Just because it's interesting, right? Just cultural lore from all over, just because it's super interesting. We were just chatting about some of the story that my significant other, Jarrell, shared a while back about the Aswan, right? We were just kind of chatting about Aswans and stuff kind of before we got started. So just the lore around those things is super interesting to me. But again, it's a rabbit hole. Once you kind of start down that rabbit hole, you just kind of sort of don't stop. We had... our last couple episodes, we actually went on a haunted road trip through southern Arizona, and we stopped in Tucson, and we stopped in Tombstone, and we stopped in Bisbee. We stayed in the Copper Queen in Bisbee, Arizona, and we operated an SB7 spirit box there. And that was a super interesting experience. So we were just kind of like chatting back and forth about experiences. We didn't get anything through the spirit box. But just talking about kind of...
What is that? Can you explain that to me?
Do
I want to know? So
the spirit box is... And I'm sure I'll do a horrible job. I'll fucking butcher this. But so if you watch Ghost Adventures, if you've ever watched Ghost Adventures, when they go in and they start asking questions and they have this kind of like... It sounds like... It's radio static. And they usually have it hooked up to like a little speaker thing. And it's got this kind of like oscillating sound of FM. But it basically scans FM or AM frequencies backwards. And it's used as a device for maybe the not-so-human to communicate with you.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So we're
and
set.
You voluntarily did this?
For sure. We did it at Tombstone, too.
Gosh.
Yeah, so we did it at Tombstone. Hanging out, right? We stayed in a cabin like right down off of like old Main Street, Tombstone, right? Excellent for anybody that wants to go. I forget what the name of the cabins were, but they were super cool. But yeah, and so we did it in the Copper Queen, which is notoriously haunted. Like as soon as we walked into the Copper Queen, and we're asking the person behind the desk, and we're like, "What's, like for real, like haunted, like for real?" And they're like, "Shit, yeah." Like they start rattling off stories. They're like, I went to like punch out, and like I turn around and there's like a kid like behind me, or like I'm walking through and I'm trying to find the person that's smoking because I keep smelling cigar smoke, and I can't find it. And this is like the first day I'm working here, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Bob, whatever,
that scares me whenever I hear those stories. And it's socially acceptable that, you finally met Bob, you know? Or, we were wondering when you were going to bring up that terrifying thing that we all had that first experience of. But there was no way we were going to mention it to you.
I think what was interesting about... so I don't get this kind of diving some into that trip. Tombstone never gave me like this feeling of like... this tense feeling, right? And Bisbee's a super cool spot, and it wasn't not really a tense feeling, but everywhere you go in Bisbee, it feels like there's eyes on you. Does that make sense?
No, I get it.
Like you almost have... Bisbee's a lovely little town. Like I love Bisbee. Like that's the first time I'd went. Just the way the town's constructed and everything's like stacked on top of shit, and it's just like this old mining town, super cool, But you're sitting there in the hotel, and then you're like, you walk out of the hotel, and like right in front of the hotel, same era, is like, oh, this was the hospital. This was the mining hospital, and then the mine's like right there, right? You can see the mine from the Copper Queen across the road almost, And then you hear again all the kind of ghost stories and kind of all the other stuff, spiritual stories that go along with it. But walking through Tombstone, which I think Tombstone's cool. It's like I'm a nerd for that stuff. We went to the finally did like the cheesy Birdcage theater tour and stuff, which Birdcage is super cool. I actually have a poster of the Black Mariah, which is the hearse that's in the Birdcage. That was the Tombstone hearse. I'm pointing. Folks can't see me. I'm pointing across to the wall of this print. That was kind of the slogan of the Black Mariah, was a cowboy a day. It ate a cowboy a day. So all the bodies in Boot Hill, it took all the bodies. That particular hearse took all the bodies to Boot Hill.
Wow.
But in Tombstone, where I'm going with this kind of nerd rant about how cool Tombstone is, this is like, Tombstone just feels like a lovely little kind of western town to me. But in Bisbee, it feels like a lovely town with a lot of people watching you. It's this weird kind of feeling. Same thing with the hotel. So
so this is like is it notorious for being haunted? And you stayed there.
For sure. Yeah, that was the point.
Gosh, Sam, I must, you know what, we're friends, but I didn't know we had this, I didn't know we had this dark side to you. I know that the story is called Really Fucking Scary Stories, but I didn't know you were like a ghost chaser.
So it's not even that. So what we did is we recorded the podcast on location. So we started with the Spirit Box session.
You're not building a case for you being less crazy. I hope you know that.
So, exactly, right. But it was interesting, to say the least. But so there was not really any experiences. Where I was going with all this is there wasn't really any experiences. Not really any experiences. So like it was just this weird thing, and again, you can chalk all this up to, you can debunk this very quickly. It was just odd, right? At night, lots of scraping noises from the hotel, lots of bumps in the night, like bumps to where you get like you kind of get like that kind of bump that just kind of like wakes you up. You kind of get this like kind of quickness to it. And I don't know if it's just because you're kind of you're sleeping with one eye open anyways, just because where you're at and you're kind of expecting it, But super old hotel, not updated at all. Gosh. Like you walk through and you just hear like you can hear the floors creak as you walk through. The doors still have keys.
Oh, God. Keys. No.
The bathroom has the original iron clawfoot tubs in them. From back when it was.
That part's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. But so lots of interesting stories from those little towns. But yeah, so you're just kind of laying there in the middle of the night and you just hear like this metallic kind of like scraping. And I'm like, old pipes, right? Old pipes. You just kind of tell yourself that and then go back to sleep. You just kind of randomly at 3 a.m. of all times, kind of get like this kind of scraping noise,
No.
Yeah, so a lot of kid ghosts, a lot of those folks. I think we asked for her when we were doing our spirit boxes, but I think her name was Julia Lowe? It was something like that.
And this is a dead person?
Yeah.
You were
for sure.
Sam, what is wrong with you?
So she was one of the people that she was a person.
It doesn't matter, Sam. She's dead. Why are you trying to bring her?
It was self-inflicted. She found her way there.
Oh my gosh.
After Wild West, a tale as old as time, right? Wild West prostitute fell in love with a person, and the person wanted nothing to do with them, so they basically killed themselves on the fourth floor of this hotel.
Wow.
We were on the third floor, fortunately. The little boy haunted the third floor, mostly. So yeah, that was my more recent kind of ghost experiences as of late here. In Tombstone, we did more beer drinking than we did ghost adventuring, I think.
I can get on board with that part.
Yeah, we hung out in Big Nose Kate's. I don't know. There's just something about hanging out in a bar with real bullet holes in the wall.
So that's like that. I can get on. Yep. So the chances are, it's probably more dead people, more dead spirits in that bar than probably the hotel. But
sure.
Because there's beer drinking, I'm like, hey, sign me up.
Sure,
I'm good. I'm good with it.
So that whole town, there's just so many stories around Tombstone. Tombstone was just such a unique town in general, right? And anybody can go back and dig through some of the stories of those areas if they want to, but they're just super cool. Just super cool. Yeah, so we're looking at doing some more. As you call me crazy, we're going to be doing some more craziness. We're looking for some more areas to go explore and do. So
I've heard up in Flagstaff, the Monte Cristo Hotel.
I've heard of Monte Cristo too. Yeah.
Yep. Or I'm sorry, Monte Vista. My bad.
You're right. Yeah,
Monty V. So Monty V, there's a great basement bar there. There's a great bar on the ground level. I wouldn't recommend staying in the hotel unless you're you. And you go right ahead. But it's a great bar. You know, they got some great live shows there. You should go check it out.
You know, the worst part about these old, and I'll use heavy air quotes here, haunted hotels, is it's almost like an excuse not to invest any money into them. Leave them kind of like old and dusty and kind of like, you know, they're clean. But it's like, really? Like, you can't like put down some fresh carpet? You end up paying normal hotel rates to stay in
like piece of crap hotel.
Kind of a somewhat piece of crap hotel. And the Copper Queen was lovely. Don't get me wrong, but we will Airbnb the next time we go to Bisbee. We won't be ghost chasing. But yeah, so we've been kind of exploring. We're going to plan another. That was our haunted road trip, Southern Arizona. So we'll probably plan a little bit of a haunted road trip, more Northern Arizona.
The thought terrifies me.
The next one.
Of even that you would want to do this, but do you have any outdoor trips planned for the same?
Not as of yet.
No,
not as of yet. Yeah. Now you got my
I don't like that I piqued your interest with that.
Oh yeah,
that's a terrible idea. I'm sure there's some Bigfoot areas around, and there's a lot of stuff in this area you could get into that I would never go out and see. But you go right ahead, Sam.
Well, it's really interesting to me because I found so many. I don't know. I just never thought to look. I guess there's a lot of Phoenician ghost stories as well, right? There's a lot of kind of tales here, but I was like, oh, okay, that's not a thing. And then obviously kind of some of the more kind of larger scale stories, such as the Phoenix Lights, right? That we touched on super briefly in an episode a while back, just kind of for folks that had not heard of that, to kind of let them go research their own. But there's a lot of super interesting kind of stories here in the valley where I'm like, oh, I need to stay at that hotel and I need to go to that one. So we're not to the point of like staying in these, like searching out these specific rooms in particular, because you can find rooms right that are supposedly extra haunted. We're just to the point of going, okay, we're going to go stay in this general area, or we're going to go stay at this hotel, and we'll do a podcast live from that.
Are you into getting? I don't know what monitor they use in like the shows where they measure stuff. What exactly are they measuring?
The EMF thing.
EMF, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you into that? Is that part of your gig?
No. So for me, it's this. Like, the Spirit Box is kind of cool because it's audio, and for all of the folks out there listening, we can run the Spirit Box and play with it. I think the EMF things are kind of cool, but I don't know. That's where we were chatting beforehand, and I'm the person that's like on the middle, like I'm the fence rider of this stuff, right? So,
so you're half and half out about whether or not it's real,
right? Exactly. So my my sister's way in. Ian and I were just chatting about the story that she shared back, like in the first, second, or third episode.
Wait, she talked about this in one of your previous episodes?
She did, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
So you have to go back and listen if you want a nice little...
I don't know, man. If it's a recap of what you told me, I never want to hear it again. That was terrifying.
So go back and listen to that one.
Oh, gosh. I think what got me was the kid story with the train.
Yeah.
That was too much for me.
That's it, yeah. And so it just gets worse.
The ZO and all that.
It just gets worse. Yeah, if you actually like listen to her tell it, you can hear like
the tension,
like the fuck this kind of like thing. Like
I'm sure you can hear her terror too.
Yeah, for sure.
And just the recalling of like, Sam, I hate you for having me retell the story.
Well, what was interesting with her story in particular is that all of her kind of like friends group and the folks around her like knew all this going on, so they're all experiencing it together.
Gosh,
it's like this kind of collective
like
experience.
Final Fantasy,
super interesting, yeah.
Final Destination.
Yeah. So out of kind of our little crew that does this stuff, like she way believes, obviously. Mm-hmm. Jarrell is probably like 3/4 believer, right? I think he just gets more terrified easier. I don't know how much he actually believes, how much of it's just kind of just fright, right? And then I'm kind of the one that's just kind of like, maybe. Yeah.
I'm definitely closer to Jarrell. I respect it.
Yeah.
I think that I understand that there's a pretty damn good chance it's out there. Yeah. I've never seen anything